Bernard, also Detroit Police Commissioner Linda Bernard. It's a pleasure to hear, see, and listen later today to my audience. You're watching us today on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. You can watch us, listen to us, check us out anytime on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, all of the social media platforms. So it's a real pleasure to join you, my very, very special guest today, Nurse Nikki, as well as our audience. Hi, Nurse Nikki. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning. Good morning, Attorney Linda.
Oh,
Appreciate being here. Thank you for having me.
well, it's more than a pleasure to have you, and our listening and viewing audience is going to really enjoy what you have to share today. You are a very unique lady, and I like the way you have branded yourself. You're not just a nurse. Nurses are fabulous. My mother was a nurse. Um, who doesn't have respect for nurses? I mean, you guys have carried the healthcare system on your shoulders, particularly for the last 3 years during COVID. But beyond that, you're a very, very lovely lady. Thank you very much for joining our audience today.
Thank you.
Now, tell me, how did you get this name, Nurse Nikki?
Nurse Nikki.
Go ahead. I mean, and that's your brand.
It is. I am branding. I've branded myself, and I came up with this name about maybe 10, 12 years ago, and I started a Facebook page called Nurse Nikki. I'm really a lot into holistic health and also working in emergency departments. I really found that it was necessary to give people information about health. So what I did, I used the Facebook platform to start sharing information because working in emergency departments, in Detroit, I found that a lot of people would come in and just during triage, we would just ask basic questions about, your health, and they would give medication list. And I would say, oh, if they didn't mention high blood pressure, but they're on a blood pressure medication, I would ask them about, did they have that condition? They would say no. And I said, but you're taking a blood pressure pill or you're taking a thyroid pill. Oh, no, I don't have that. So I found that there was a breakdown in communication between the patients when they go to the doctor, when they come to the ER, and their knowledge about what was going on with their own medical conditions and their health. And so I started to post and just start to put myself out there a bit, maybe 10 to 15 years ago. I did that.
Why don't you tell me about, because you are a nurse, and because a lot of what we're going to talk about are medical issues, can you tell me something about your background, academically and otherwise, in nursing?
Sure, definitely. As far as nursing, I was a stay-at-home mom, so I would like to say I started my nursing at home with the kids. I was a teen mom. I started doing when the kids were sick, I'm looking in their ears and nose and nursing them and looking for, natural ways
How
to
many
help them
children did
heal.
you have?
I have four. I had
Okay.
four by the time I was 22 years old.
Boys, girls?
I have one daughter and three boys.
Oh, boy, so you were a busy lady.
Yeah, six grandkids now.
Those,
so I
those
started
boys
there.
were running you, I'm
Oh,
sure.
they were. And
Good for them.
Yeah, I needed my youth at the time, definitely, to keep up with them because they kept me busy. So being at home with them and nursing them and all the injuries. And at the age, I believe 25, I started into nursing school at Wayne County Community College here in Detroit. So fabulous nursing program at the time, it still is, and that's where I got my first degree, an associate degree in nursing.
At where? Again, I'm sorry.
Wayne County Community
Okay,
College.
WC3. Okay,
Yep, WC3.
Okay. So you become an LPN, a licensed professional nurse, or
No.
what is it? You
Yeah.
became what?
I became a registered nurse.
Oh, they have a whole registered nursing program.
Yes,
I didn't
yes.
realize that. I thought it was only an LPN program.
Yeah, back in '95, January of '95, I started the nursing program for RN.
How
at
long did it
WC3.
take you?
It was a 2-year program. Well, besides that, I had to do some prerequisites, and so I did a few classes prior to that. But the actual nursing program was 2 years for RN.
How will you, for our audience of women who may be interested in nursing as a career, how were you able to balance 4 kids and a husband and obviously school?
It was challenging.
Tell me
It really was.
how did you really do it? I mean,
Well, for me, because everybody's story is different, and
but you,
yeah,
that's your,
for
about
me,
your story.
For me, I started and I did the telecourses because they had telecourses at the time. Right now, they do distance learning through the internet. So at the time, they had distance learning telecourses, and I did
Which
a
means
lot
you
of,
were on the phone.
which means you went down on campus once a month for your class. This was the prerequisites. You went down on campus once a month for your class, and then they had public TV where they would put your classroom classes on TV and you would have to watch the program. So I did several classes like that, and that was prior to the nursing
could do that at
program.
home.
I did that at home and then once a month on campus. So I did that with the kids. I was breastfeeding. I had kids at my feet. So I was able to do it because I was at home and my husband was, working. At later when I started the nursing program, I had no idea how I was going to actually do it. But I said, when there's a will, there's a way, and I really wanted to get it done. We had $5 left at the end of every payday. We didn't have anything, so I wanted to help and contribute, and I really wanted to be a nurse. And so what I did, I just stepped out on faith, and my mom ended up having surgery on her foot. So she was able to watch my youngest child. The other ones were in school, so she was able to watch my youngest one, who was only 3 at the time. And so
With a
semester
broken
after
foot, she was running around like a kid with a kid,
Yeah,
a 3-year-old.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, she had one foot, one foot up, one foot
Yeah.
down, and then the other foot
She was
done.
strong and a disciplinarian.
Oh yeah, she's a very strong person.
Good for her, because that's what it takes, because
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
So my mother actually helped me throughout my duration during nursing school because
sure.
me and the children lived with her for the entire 2 years I was in school. And so I used the vehicle that was at the house. It was an uncle of mine who actually was sick. He was my grandmother's brother, and he had HIV and AIDS. And so he was at home, and we were taking care of him, and he had a vehicle. So I was able to use his vehicle to get back and forth to school and then help take care of him along with my mom in the home. And so that's how we did it. I
So it was
didn't
your
work
village.
at the time.
It was your village
My village helped me.
that really allowed you
Yes.
to become all that you could be.
Yes, and my aunt lived across the street from my mom, and so she was home and she helped out as well. So definitely, my village, my family definitely showed up to help me.
Do you know what's interesting? You're such a remarkable woman, and I'm sure they were so very proud of you and your initiative as the daughter, the granddaughter, and as the niece, because it was your will that did. I mean, you were the one, after all the kids were in bed every night, who was studying.
Yes.
Who wasn't getting any sleep at all, who knew
Yes.
you had all these obligations in the day, so the only time there's peace is at night.
That's exactly true, because now you're taking me back 25 years, and that's exactly what happened, because the kids were home from school and we had to do what we needed to
Had
do
to
with
cook
them.
and deal with them and laundry.
Yeah, my
and-
mom helped out with that, and I sat on the floor with them with my big books, like, 6-inch books.
I know.
But when they were in bed, I was up some days until 4 o'clock in the morning, and you could not be late for nursing school. You had to be on time.
What time did nursery school start?
Oh, we had to be there in clinical, bright and ready. You had to be in place before 7 o'clock. You had to be there at least a quarter till.
So you're only getting a couple hours sleep a night.
Care plans were very extensive. I didn't even know about care plan books. Yeah, it was a whole secret.
What's a care plan? I don't even know what you're talking about.
nursing care plan. So that what differentiates nursing from other disciplines is that we are able to make a plan of care for our patients. We do our own nursing assessment, our own nursing diagnosis, our own nursing care plan, our own nursing interventions, our own evaluations, and then reevaluating our plan and making a new plan. And so we have a whole different body of knowledge than physicians and maybe medical assistants. So that's really what differentiates us, is our critical thinking skills and our ability to operate independently with our nursing assessment, diagnosis, and care plans.
I see. So you were an extremely busy, very young lady, devoted to children, devoted to family,
Yes.
meaning your uncle who had HIV, as well as to your community. You were just busier than a one-armed paper hanger. You were doing 10 things at once and only sleeping 2 hours a night.
Yes, yes.
Isn't it wonderful when you're young enough to do that and can get it done and still just survive on 2 hours
You
of sleep?
don't know what you can do until you do it, because
That's
I
true.
was
That
a
is so
housewife.
true.
Yeah, I was a housewife at home for at least 7 years. Mind you, I got married the day before I turned 18, and I started nursing school when I was 25.
I see. So you had done a lot even before even before we got to the new challenge of school and
Yes.
children, et cetera, et cetera. Oh wow, girl, you're not Nurse Nikki. You're a superwoman, Nikki. You know that song, "I Am a Superwoman." You are really a superwoman. I mean, in so many ways. I mean, whoop, 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 whoop. I mean, it's amazing that you were able to, and all your kids are fine. I'm
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Okay. So back to nursing. So you went to nursing school at WC3 and became an RN.
Yes.
My mother was an RN, and I know what that means in terms of sacrifice and in terms of how much work you have to do. And when she was a nurse and so forth, you had to wear those white hats, remember?
Yes.
And those white stockings and those white uniforms that we were responsible for ironing.
Yeah.
So I remember. So at least my older sister was, not me. Unfortunately, she died when I was 5. She had a cerebral hemorrhage. She was standing in the doorway of the kitchen and just hit the floor
Wow.
with a nurse's uniform. It was
Wow.
amazing. Just boom. And as you know, there are only 3 things that can automatically cause death: an aneurysm, of course, which is like a bubble on a tire when it explodes, just like our tire explodes. Certainly a heart attack or a stroke.
Yes.
So any one of those 3 things, there's really literally nothing you can do. But in any event, so you did all of this. You're just a remarkable woman. You have become my shero. Now, in terms of your evolution as a nurse, the reason I like nursing and I encourage both males and females these days to go into nursing is that it's 3 days. If you work in a facility like a hospital or something, it's 3 days a week. 12 hours a day. It's just like a firefighter. And I'll
Right.
go to that in a minute. But anyway, three days a week, that's 36 hours a week, 12-hour shifts, and then you're free unless you do overtime or
Correct.
unless you do private duty nursing. No nurse I know makes less than $100,000 a year. It's a very lucrative career. Not only that, you can, as you and I both know, you can do quote private duty nursing. I met a guy in L.A. and Arab guy, very successful guy. Anyway, I mean, his friend was actually the son of a sheik.
Okay.
So he was sitting there, the other guy, the guy I know, and then the guy that's his friend. He had flown, of course, from Paris or wherever he had been before he came. A woman that was at a separate table over there, she just happened to be there that night. She usually just stayed in the hotel. He's staying in a 5-star hotel, like $5,000 a night.
Wow.
She works exclusively for him. He's 27 years old. He's not an old guy or somebody that that needs like life support, but
Right.
your skill level, which is incredible as an RN. You have an incredible skill. You can bring the dead back to life. You know what you're doing. But anyway, his father was worried about him, so he sends a nurse. He goes with a nurse. Wherever he flies in the world, he has a nurse. Her whole job, Nurse Nikki, this would be a marvelous job for you if you weren't a mommy. Her whole job was when he gets drunk at night, and then he had diplomatic immunity, so he would only had Ferraris and he would speed down the streets in Beverly Hills, get stopped, of course, and then get released because he is diplomatic immunity. Her whole job was to give him an IV. The next morning when he comes home that night to get his electrolytes or whatever it is. You're going to tell us what it is, but anyway, I'm saying electrolytes back up so that he would be perky the next day. So all she did was give him vitamins, buy an IV, and I guess water saline solution. But she got paid $500,000 a year to do that.
Wow.
Flew only with him, private jets, first class hotel. They were in the Beverly Hills Hotel. She always had her own suite. He had a monster suite, but was always adjacent to his. So, if he ever really got sick or something, or, whatever happens to you when you drink too much, all those things. That's the only thing that ever happened. He's 27. So there's nothing wrong with him. You know what I mean? So that was her
Yes,
job.
right.
So wouldn't that be fabulous to go around the world?
It would be, long as she had time to actually enjoy it and not just be with him. But that's a very lucrative field right now where people are doing the IV infusion. So we did that a lot in the ER because we saw a lot of, I say did because I don't work in the ER anymore, but that happens a lot in emergency departments where people come in because they have alcohol intoxication, and that's the first thing they do is they get an IV bag.
What is the IV in the IV bag?
Oh, they put
For
a lot
alcohol
of, They
intoxication.
put a lot of different vitamins in there,
Oh.
vitamins and electrolytes, just to get them back balanced out.
So-
And they still have to wait for the alcohol levels to decrease because it drops by so many points every hour. So depending on the alcohol level, they have to wait in the ER until the levels go down to a safe level.
And sometimes, of course, he have acute headaches or vomiting or whatever he's done to himself, partying and everything. And so you know how to deal with all of that and bring him back to being healthy, so to speak.
Yeah, a lot. I've heard of this business because
So you carry all those bags and stuff and the IV stuff with you?
not me.
I mean, not you.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
if you
people,
were with him, you would have them.
Yeah, there's nurses that are out there like in Vegas, and they have exactly those type of businesses. For when people get drunk, they'll call those nurses, and they'll come on site, start their IVs, and get them
All
reinvigorated.
very, very sterile. All very,
There's
strictly
a lot of
by the
different
book.
options for nurses these days. True.
That's kind of what, and I want to come back to Nurse
Mm-hmm.
Nikki in a minute, but isn't that kind of what happened to Michael Jackson? But his wasn't vitamins and alcohol, because he didn't drink and didn't eat any meat and
Right.
didn't eat anything. He just couldn't sleep. He had acute insomnia, and that's what that guy did. He hooked him up.
That's what was said, is that he was being
Just
he had
insomnia.
IV lines of propofol, which is
Which is a
something-
wonderful drug.
yeah.
I've had it every time I've had outpatient surgery.
surgery, right?
The best part about Propanol, ladies and
Surgery.
gentlemen, is that you are mid-sentence. I'm Linda, and I'm asleep immediately. And there's no hangover or bad headache or anything after you come out of it. You come out
Just like that.
just clear as a bell. It's a great drug. How do you, just as an aside, how do you think he just well, he was a very small person. He only weighed 135 pounds. But in your opinion, what did he do wrong, other than the fact he didn't have a blood pressure? He wasn't, you don't give Propanol just in a hotel room or bedroom.
Yeah, I mean that whole situation. Who really knows, unless he had too much.
But as a nurse, what would you
Yeah.
have done if you had me as a patient? I couldn't sleep like Michael Jackson at all, but I have to sleep because I got to get up. I got to do all this tour
First
stuff.
of all, it shouldn't have been used outside the hospital setting. So
Really? So
yeah.
you would never have done
And, yeah, no.
it. Is that a violation of your oath or something?
I mean, you wouldn't do anything that's unsafe. So we operate, unless you're in a state where nurses can act independently and they have a nurse practitioner certification and they have a licensure to operate independently. Nurse practitioners work alongside physicians,
they
and
do.
we follow physician orders.
Correct.
And so nurses that are operating businesses as for IV infusions and things like that, they typically have a doctor that's on staff, and they have standing orders for these different patients that come in. They're not doing it independently.
I didn't realize that, because I had a cousin who had this, I'm calling it vitamin infusion, I don't know what you call it, but anyway, business.
That's what they are.
And he had a van, and he was doing it. I didn't know so an actual doctor is supposed to see that person?
They can have standing orders. So as long as that organization has clinical standing orders, that's from my understanding of how it works. They can see the patient and do all the treatment based on the standing orders that are in place.
From a physician.
Yes. Yeah, unless they're in an
About
environment.
the
yeah.
physician's order to Linda Bernard, or to Nurse Nikki. It has to be an order
Yeah.
for me to get the infusions.
Yes.
He wasn't operating that way.
Yeah.
He's making a lot of
At
money.
least that's my understanding of it, and I could be wrong.
No, I
but
think you're right.
Yeah. They usually, when the nurses open up clinics, and a lot of them are nurse practitioners, and so they can work and they can do their own thing, as long as they have a physician that they're working under the direction of. Some states allow nurse practitioners to work independently without a physician. Michigan is not one of those states. And so when we're giving anything that's considered a medication, then you have to have a physician that's on board with you.
That's good to know, because this was happening right here in Michigan, and I know that he didn't have that. There wasn't an order from a physician. And you're right, because even vitamins can have reactions on people. Like if you're just giving me a lot of vitamin E or something to give me energy or whatever it is, you already know what it is.
Right.
Because you're in the holistic medicine, and I want to talk about that. But anyway, so you still need a physician. You need that second, that professional person
and
with
they're
the
not
MD.
necessarily on site, but as long as they have the orders in place.
Okay, so you can only do it in Michigan pursuant to order. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're seeing these guys in the pretty vans with the Louis Vuitton interior, that's what he had, I remember. If you have not been seeing a physician and there's no physician's order regarding you getting these infusions, you should not do it. Is that correct?
Yeah, ask what they have, in place. They should be open to telling you how they're set up. What's going
They're
on.
only open to getting the money for the person who wants the infusion. You know that. I mean, I didn't even know that a physician had to be involved until you just told me.
Well, yeah, nurses work under physicians.
Yes.
They make orders, and we follow orders. Aside from our own practice, now when I mentioned that we can do our own nursing assessment, our own nursing diagnosis, that's a whole different classification. So we don't need a doctor to do that per se.
Right, I
But
understand.
anything dealing with like injections, medications, things like that, unless you're in a state where a nurse practitioner can practice independently, then you would need to have.
So injections, medications, you need a doctor.
Yes.
So listen up, everybody out there. All right, Nurse Nikki,
Yes.
you started our conversation today, and thank you for sharing your background and experience with us. You mentioned that you were an ER nurse. That puts you at the top of the heap. I'm serious. Emergency medicine is a specialty in and of itself.
It
It's
is.
not anything like anything else. Because you have to be able to figure out what's wrong with me when I can't talk.
You have to know a lot about
About a
whole
lot. You know a lot about a lot. I'm that way as a lawyer. I know a lot about a lot. So I can point you in the right direction for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know really a lot about a lot.
Yeah, I spent a lot of years doing emergency nursing. So
Where'd you do it?
Sinai Grace Hospital. I worked there from '99 to 2003. I worked Harper Hospital. I did their emergency department. A lot of management experience as well from 2003 to 2008. And then I worked staff as well till 2012. I worked for a Henry Ford facility, Henry Ford Macomb Hospitals, which was on 10 Mile and Shana. There's a Myers there right now. So I worked that emergency department as management. And then I also worked Rehab Institute of Michigan, which is, to me, the whole opposite side of ER. That's where they, go through rehab, physical rehab. And I did that at RIM from 2012 to 2018, and then found myself back at Sinai Grace from 2018 to 2020 as their director of emergency nursing.
Director of Emergency Nursing.
Yeah, so currently I'm out of emergency nursing. I'm an
She is, ladies and gentlemen, but she isn't. You can't take away from her what's between her right ear and her left ear. Trust me, if you have a problem, she can address it.
That's true.
Because she knows what the hell she's doing. She's a super professional. We're at the top of the heap, my sister.
Thank you. You're so kind.
And I want to let everybody know right now you are listening and watching Nurse Nikki, as you just heard, an incredible professional, mother and daughter and granddaughter and niece. She actually, ladies and gentlemen, has a halo. I can see it. I'm sitting here in the studio with her at WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. You can watch us and listen to us on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, all of the social media platforms, YouTube. Please do so. She's worth listening to. She's worth seeing. And she's just an amazing woman and mother of 4 kids. Can you imagine? But anyway, and wife for more than 30 years. So she just does it all. I mean, she is a legitimate, Nurse Nikki is a legitimate, certified superwoman.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. You started saying something to me earlier about holistic medicine. Your whole background is what I'd call, quote, real medicine, i.e., what has come down through the ages as the discipline of medicine and drugs, et cetera, et cetera. And now there's this holistic thing, which is natural, I assume, or something like natural. But tell me the difference and tell me why you like holistic medicine or why you think our audience should be engaged in it. Just tell us what you think.
I've been very interested in natural health for a lot of years, probably over 30,
It's called
30 years.
natural health.
Natural
That's right.
health, yeah,
Which
natural
means, what does that mean?
Well, it's nature, it's plants, it's dealing with energy. It encompasses quite a few different things. And so when you're looking at natural medicine, you're looking at how to help the person heal using things that naturally grow from the earth and that naturally emanate from us. Even mindfulness, the way we think and move about, is considered medicine. The way we manipulate and move our bodies, is medicine. Anything that contributes to the healing of a person can be considered medicine. So we have allopathic medicine, which deals with pills, going to doctors, surgery, things like that. And then you have natural medicine, which deals with herbs. It deals with energy work. It deals with the way we think, like I said. And so it's just a whole scope of many different things. And so I think people should be interested in it because if you have a way to heal without introducing chemicals into your body, which we know most things have side effects. If you have an opportunity to heal in a natural way, then why wouldn't a person choose that? You
I
know?
would agree.
Yeah. So that's why I believe it's a good topic. People should be informed about it and know what their different options are.
Are you a natural medicine doctor or nurse as well?
I'm a nurse, and I like to call myself, a natural Nikki. So,
Natural
yeah, I
Nikki.
don't have like
Nurse Nikki is all AKA Natural Nikki, but that's
I have.
obvious.
I'll tell you what I have. I have.
You're beautiful and you have none of the stuff that I got
Some
on.
people go to school to become naturopathic doctors. I did not do that. I have a natural health consultant diploma. I also have
Oh,
a certification. I'm sorry, I have a education in holistic health and wellness coaching. So I have that. I also have done some work in energy body work, Thai energy body work, and so that is working along the energy lines of the body to help the energy pathways open and also help the circulation open, which allows your body to heal. So I also have a yoga teacher training certification as well.
yoga? You said yoga?
Yoga teacher training, yes.
Okay, okay, now, just, okay, I'm interested in all this.
Yes.
How do I become your patient, or how does anyone in our audience, and this is global, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to fly into Detroit and consult directly with Nurse Nikki. She really knows her stuff.
Right now, it's getting in touch with me so we can have the conversation one to one to see really what a person's needs are, because everyone is different. Everyone is different. And when you start to look at each person individually, my goal is, as a nurse, one, I want to do nurse education because I'm educated as a nurse. So that's part of our job. And nurses may not always present that way because we're so busy and people may not think of us that way.
No, they don't.
But that's one of our primary jobs, is to educate.
So let me understand. You could have a private, I could become your client, your client.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
you could.
And so how would a person go about that? Everybody listen up, get your pens and pencils. Because I'm going to do it. I'm telling you right now. And I'll be able to report back on it. But anyway, go ahead.
Right now, I have a website. Is it's nursenikki.com. NurseNicky.com.
Okay.
And so I, can reach me through there. I also am on Facebook, Nurse Nikki, NurseNicky.
Okay.
My phone number, I can be reached by phone. It's 313-695-7879.
Okay.
And so, contacting me, just reaching out, because I've been working in medical facilities for the past 25, 26 years. So right now I'm branching out, to hopefully one day do this full time, where I can be that holistic health and wellness coach and do this full time. So right now I'm doing it on an individual basis as people contact me, and we're having some pretty good success, really good success with people.
Can you give us an example?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, with the energy body work that I've learned to do, I've had people come in. Also Reiki, I've done Reiki as well.
I'm sorry?
Reiki, Reiki, which is
R
energy work.
E I K I.
Yes,
Okay.
that's natural energy healing work.
Okay.
I've worked with people and worked with them and worked along you do acupressure along the energy lines, you do assisted movement with them. So I've had people that have come with me and they've allowed me to work on them, and they've had like severe pain in their back or their hips, walking bent over, just walking wide-legged, different pains and things like that. And after like 90 minutes with me working with them, doing assisted stretching, and working along the energy lines, people have jumped up off the mat, lifted their knees to their chest, stood straight up, walked out to the car, standing straight. And I had been amazed by it because, I was still fairly new when I started doing it, and I didn't know that these kind of results could happen. But after multiple people, had relief of pain, like immediately, an overall good feeling. You can feel the vibrations coming off their body. I knew I was really into something really, really good. And so I've seen people have like immediate relief after just a session. As far as naturopathic, when I'm dealing with herbs, there's certain things that I do just for like general things. I don't like to say things cure, but when you talk about salt and you talk about the nasal washes and the salt gargles, people have been doing that naturally for years. There's really a lot of benefit to that. There's herbs that are out on the market. I am affiliate marketer for Wisdom Therapeutics Herbal Therapy, and that's a line of herbal tinctures that I just take under my tongue that helps with
Herbal,
energy.
what did you call it?
Herbal tinctures, Tinc.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, it
yeah,
just
yeah,
drops under your
tincture. Yeah, it's a
tongue.
little
Yeah.
liquid thing. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so with that, I have several people that are taking those tinctures, myself, my dad, and we have a lot of good results. One lady just the other day, she said, Nick, I have a lot more energy in the morning. I take my Be Life under my tongue, in the morning at 6 a.m. She says she's usually very, very sleepy, wants to go back to sleep. She
Me
says,
too. That's me.
she said, I couldn't go back to sleep. She said, I didn't want to give the tincture credit. She said, but after, a couple of days, and then she said she stopped, she got sluggish again. And then she took the tincture again the next morning. She was invigorated, bright and bubbly for work, energized. She said she knew that it was really helping her. So there's different things out there for us to help us with our immune system, to help even with like menopause symptoms. There's, a product we have called Lady Pause, so there's different things helping just to normalize and get us into a nice homeostatic, situation where our bodies are balanced, long as we're doing other things. So my platform for me is there's more to health than diet and exercise, because you also have to look at thoughts and emotions. And so that's the other part of it. How we think and how we feel has a lot to do with why we're sick. And a lot of people don't talk about that. You won't get this conversation when you go to a doctor.
Not at all.
Yeah.
When people come to see you, what should they bring?
They should bring themselves. They should dress comfortably.
I mean, should they bring all the medicines they take so you can get a
Yeah,
sense of
yeah.
what's really going in
Yeah.
their body right now?
Yeah, we can have a conversation over the phone or in person. But yeah, I would like
Bring
to
all
know
my bottles in. Okay.
what you're taking, because one, I have to find out if it's appropriate for us to work together initially, because based on what's happening with you, you may need to go to the doctor, make sure everything is okay, and have that doctor say, yeah, it's a good idea for you to work with a health coach. Some people are just so far gone that they really need to get stabilized before they, take on a relationship with a health coach.
But when you look at a person, Nurse Nikki, can you sort of kind of know whether or not they're healthy or not?
I can, because I'm
Because you're a professional.
I'm a very intuitive person, and nurses work with their intuition. We were taught in nursing school, always go with your gut. And then there's certain things that I can see on a person and lets me know that they're just not well, and I looked at my grandson yesterday. I said, your eyes are puffy. He's 10 years old. I said, your eyes are puffy. He said, no, they're not. I said, yeah, something's off, even if you're just super fatigued. But sometimes there's signs like
Maybe he was crying a lot.
he's just tired.
That gives me
But
puffy
there's
eyes.
puffy, like if along the eyelids, sometimes there's a fat buildup, and that could indicate a person has high cholesterol.
Oh.
So there's certain signs that a person may have, and then there's just certain different things about a person that lets you know something's going on with them. They'll tell you, if they have a pain somewhere or something, and
Yeah,
I can
that's
look
easy.
and say, oh, it's probably this or probably that, But I know definitely when to tell someone to go seek emergency care, go to the hospital, go to the doctor. Yeah, some people are saying different things. I'm like, no, you need to go to the hospital. I'm not going to play around with you with this. If you want to play around, that's fine. But like, I'll just say, for instance, my aunt, and she passed away. She passed away at the age of 64, I believe, 63, 64.
That's pretty young.
She's pretty young, but she was a naturopath and a vegan.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when I talk about there's more to health than diet and exercise, she had what people feel is the perfect diet, the perfect life, exercise, and she taught martial arts. She was very
Wow.
physically, overall you would think she was very healthy. But when the underlying stress, underlying anxiety, different things that were going on internally, emotionally, she had super, super high blood pressure. Like there were days when she would have blood pressure 240 over 150. And then she started sprouting these nosebleeds. And I said, you have to get medical care. I understand, because I'm a naturopath also. I understand, wanting to do things naturally. But when you get to a life or death situation, you have to make that decision. Are you going to seek medical care to save your life and prolong it? Or are you going to continue with natural, even though it's not working for you?
Right.
Because your underlying thoughts and emotions have put so much stress on you that your body was failing her. And so she did get medication, and she did wean herself off of it, and she went natural and vegan, but then she came down with a really, really nasty breast cancer, and she passed away from that. And so that really made me focus and look at what's really going on, because when you have a person that's naturopath, they eat good, they exercise, and they still succumb to these diseases, you have to look at what's the other element that's making a person ill. And so I have a book, it's called Metaphysical Anatomy. It talks about 600 different diseases and all the thoughts and emotions that go into the way a person thinks and feel that has these different issues. And so a friend of mine said he had back pain. I said, okay, I'm reading that back pain deals with you have a issue with money. And I know this person, and I know a couple of people that have lower back pain, and they're all really focused on money, how to get the dollar, where's their next dollar coming from. They're men, they're independent, they're not married, and so money is a real issue because that's their resource. They're independently employed, and so as they stress about money, their back is hurting. And so bringing that awareness to people helps them
So
at
it's
least
mental.
know.
It's
A lot of it's
affecting the
mental.
physiology.
Yeah, a lot of it's mental. So when you think about people stressed out, they get a headache. That's a physical manifestation of stress. People fall in love, they get butterflies in their stomach. That's a physical manifestation. People get ready to take a test, they have test anxiety, their palms get sweaty. So that lets you know that your emotions and your thoughts are manifesting physically. So those are the common ones we know about, but what about all the other ones that we don't know about, that are affecting us physically? So usually, when we look at this, there's usually some type of thought or emotion that goes behind what's going on with the person physically.
Really?
Yeah, and you can.
Nurse Nikki, so
yeah.
you're saying it's what's in my head and my heart that's manifesting itself physically. Incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching WJZZ, Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And I'm attorney Linda Bernard. You're watching Chop It Up. Watch us on Facebook or YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, etc. And my guest is, obviously, as you can see and hear, a very distinguished, very lovely young woman whose name is Nurse Nikki at nursenikki.com, Nurse Nikki on Facebook. She is a wizard. I mean, really, not only from a homeopathic or natural medicine standpoint, but she's a bad sister. She was running the ER at crisis center hospitals in the city of Detroit, like Sinai Grace and Hustle and Harper and everything, and Henry Ford. So she knows her stuff. She doesn't have that stethoscope around her neck today, but she has another skill. She uses her eyes and her ears and her instincts and her experience to figure out what's happening with a person. And that's just as important as that stethoscope. Nurse Nikki, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I want our viewing audience to know exactly who you are and how bad you really are, quite frankly.
Thank you. So I want to also say, like, if a person tells me that they're dealing with fear or if they're dealing with grief and depression, maybe they've lost a loved one, I can almost be certain that they're dealing with some cardiovascular and pulmonary issues. So it doesn't surprise me when a person is dealing with grief and depression, or if they present to me and they have heart and lung issues, I can almost be sure that they got some unresolved grief and depression that they haven't resolved in their life.
But depression isn't that just sort of natural or not?
Well, it naturally occurs, right?
Right. I mean,
Well, depression, yeah.
or you're weepy or
Yeah.
whatever it is,
Yeah. Depression comes for different reasons. Sometimes it's a chemical imbalance. Well, it definitely is a
Yes, it
chemical
is.
imbalance. And your brain is your second gut. I mean, your gut is your second brain. So a lot of what we eat or don't eat, causes chemicals in our gut to be taken up to our brain, which is the happy chemicals, which
Ice
gives
cream
us
and
a different
alcohol,
thing.
that makes me
Yeah,
happy. No,
fruit,
easy wine,
fruit,
champagne.
watermelon, different
Yeah,
things like
yeah.
that. They come up, and so it helps balance it out. But different people go through different traumas, and a recent conversation I had, we talked about intergenerational trauma, which is trauma that's passed down through the DNA from generation to generation.
Are
to
you
generation.
serious?
Yeah,
Trauma
it's a whole
and
science.
well, hold it here. Wait a minute. Rewind. Well, sis, you're saying that your DNA can be affected by your trauma?
Yes, they've done scientific research.
That's the truth.
The absolute truth.
I've never heard of that. I did not know that could occur. So,
Yeah, it's a newer science, past few decades.
so I'm a murderer, and this is my DNA, and that DNA. I'm just, they were just talking about DNA. As a matter of fact, yesterday I was watching something or other, and it was a criminologist, because I'm a lawyer, and they were saying that there's absolutely no crime that you can commit that will not transmit part of your DNA. Not just a fingerprint or this straw that has my
Yeah.
saliva on it. Maybe it's a piece of hair or something. But I don't, I mean, DNA and depression?
Yes.
Come on,
Depression.
tell me about this.
All kind of stuff. Yeah. So, with the trauma, what I've learned is that you have your DNA strand and you have your genes. So the strand, stays intact. It stays the same, but the genetic changes that and the chemical changes that happen within your DNA passes on. So it changes within you, but then it also goes down to your family members afterwards. Let's say there was a study done. They did a lot of studies on the Holocaust victims of the Jewish
Well, I'm
Holocaust.
talking about my uncle. He's
Yeah.
a World War II veteran, a
Yeah.
Vietnam veteran.
So traumas and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's a.
I mean, he served,
yeah.
actually served, hurt,
There's
all
a
that kind of
book.
stuff. But he
Yeah.
has this post-traumatic stress thing. So that
Yes.
affects your DNA? What
Yes.
happens in your head?
Your body, your whole body, your DNA is all throughout every cell in your body. Yes.
So your experiences affect, I've never heard this. And
So-
this is a scientific fact, affects your DNA, not just your bloodline.
Yeah, they've done lots of studies on things. It's still newer, but they've done studies. There's one thing I read where, let's say a dog, they traumatized the two dogs. They rang a bell, they traumatized the one dog, shocked them, poured water over them, and then fed them. And so and they played a bell. This dog heard the bell, this dog got traumatized. 4 generations down the line, when the offspring of this animal that was traumatized hears the bell, they get anxiety. This dog over here does not get anxiety. They just heard the bell. And so it showed how the genetics passed down and the trauma that the great great grand dog, experienced went down to the great great grand. And so I'm reading some things. It goes down from generation to generation for many generations. And so when you look at slavery, you look at things that Black America went through as a whole. You look at what has affected people to this day could be is intergenerational trauma. And so that's why a lot of things are going on with us that when we show up on this planet, we're not a clean slate. We have the knowledge, the skills, the abilities. We have what we look like, our skin, our hair, and we also have intergenerational traits and traumas that come down through the other generations. And so knowledge is power. Knowing what's going on, at least knowing that as a start, helps us to at least know what's going on with us and what we need to begin to work on when you know the foundation of it.
You mentioned the Holocaust. What was your point about that? I
Well,
apologize,
because
I
they've done a
interrupted you.
lot of studies on people that, the offspring of people from the Holocaust,
Okay.
and shown how they're affected by the Holocaust from being a descendant of. So being
From
far
hearing
removed
about
from
it,
it.
from just hearing about
Just
it.
yeah, the different anxiety, the different traits that they're demonstrating. They can see how, and I don't have any studies in front of me, but there's a lot of studies that have been done to demonstrate that the traumas that people that went through the Holocaust suffered, how they passed down those different
But
things
the
to
dog thing proves it, I think, beyond a
Yeah.
shadow of a doubt. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was talking to a lady on the phone. She gave me a call. And we were talking about some things, and we pinpointed that she has anxiety. And she said, oh, and her mother has anxiety as well. But we were talking about her son. And so her son was having some issues in his gastrointestinal region, GI tract, the stomach area. And so, when you look at that area, there's a particular energy center involved in that area, and it deals with your self-confidence, your self-actualization, how you show up to the world, and do you have confidence? And so with her son having issues in that area, I wanted to find out, how he was, And so she identified that she had anxiety and her mother had anxiety as well. And so maybe he picked up on some things from her in the womb, right? So he could be demonstrating that. And she picked up some things. And so it was a start, at least getting that knowledge. Now, definitely she had some medical things they needed to work on, so she's looking at what can she do physically for her son right now because he has this gastrointestinal issue. So definitely, it was some different naturopathic, juices, but definitely continue to follow up with the medical professional because when people are so sick, it takes time to heal naturally. So sometimes you have to do those life-saving things to get better. So, but just that conversation, was very helpful for that person to know. Even in my own life, I had to start looking at myself. I have thyroid issues. I had my thyroid ablated. And so when I look at that, I have
What does that
chemo.
mean?
I had a radioactive pill that destroyed my thyroid because it was overactive and it was really killing me, right?
Okay.
It was killing me. And so when you look at the throat center, that's the communication center. And
Yes.
I've always had a difficult time growing up speaking up for myself, always being really introverted, quiet, not willing or able to speak. And so over the years, what happened was my thyroid gave out on me. And I can reflectively look back and say, oh, then that was blocked. This throat area was blocked. And so it made sense to me. But when I looked at my family line, right, I looked at my great grandmother who was abused by her husband, my great grandfather, and she stopped talking the last 20 years of her life. And I said, well, it makes sense how I show up several generations down the line where I'm quiet, insecure, you know, can't, not talking. Used to let my sister speak for me until I was
But
about
smart
4 or
as hell,
5.
ladies and gentlemen. Don't get
I
it
read a
twisted.
lot,
Her
yeah.
brain was working overtime. She might not have been talking.
Yeah.
Nurse Nikki might not have been talking, but
I am now.
she's a wizard. You can believe me, her brain
Yeah.
is fabulous.
So I feel like if I had known what I knew back then about that area, then maybe I could have saved my thyroid, right? Or maybe it wouldn't have developed in the first place. So knowing that this communication issue, so I worked on my communication, me being able to present myself to the world, me gaining lots of weight, me being okay with myself, me getting big eyes. So I had a lot of physical changes and I had to be comfortable with me, who I am right now, and how I show up to the world because being insecure about my looks or insecure about my abilities or anything like that was only hurting me on the inside. And so I was able to grow these past 3 years and really become a new me, having the knowledge that I have now. I even had like a lot of heart palpitations about 10 years ago, really a lot of heart palpitations. I was seeing a cardiologist, but I was having a lot of grief and depression surrounding my marriage at the time. And so as these things happened, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. The pulmonologist couldn't, the cardiologist couldn't. They just kind of washed
Did
their
you have
hands
high
of
blood
me.
pressure? What were the physical
It was
manifestations of this?
It was heart
of this
skipping a
grief?
beat 20 times, no, 200 times an hour. It was a lot, and I was really scared. And so they didn't
How
know.
many times is it supposed to beat a minute? I don't know.
Yeah, they said no more than eight per. I think it's 8 per minute or 8 per
Oh,
hour or
wow.
something like that. This is seek professional help. So I
They
was
wanted to
way
give you a
beyond.
pacemaker though, because that's when you have a heart rate this bad. You didn't get the pacemaker. They didn't
No,
give you.
it was palpitation. So when people are going through midlife, they get heart palpitations. Maybe you feel like your heart skips a beat. So it was doing it a lot. I felt like my heart was like jump starting in my chest. So what happened was I got okay with what was going on in the marriage. I came to a calm about everything. And I remember the heart palpitations went away. I said, oh, they just went away.
Really?
It just resolved.
So
and
it
I
was
thought
all
it was really
emotional.
strange. So now, that I'm more educated about what was going on, I look back reflectively. I said, that's when I was going through this, and this was what was associated with it. And when it all calmed down, the symptoms went away. And so now when I feel certain things coming on, like someone else got into some issues legally and I was really distraught about it. I started having diarrhea, and I felt like, and a hip pain. I said, this is me internalizing what's going on with my loved one. Okay. And as long as I internalize it, I was the one that was going to be ill. So I had to come to some type of calm and resolution. How am I going to deal with this? Because when I take it on, I'm the one that gets sick. And so I leveled out, the pain went away, diarrhea, everything went away. And so I know now
Without medication.
No, without medication.
Even your holistic medication. You just took. We were going to talk about that in a minute. What you really take, but
just leveled out.
so it was all mental and emotional. Mm-hmm. The physiological changes that you were experiencing were related to what was happening in your head and your heart.
Yes. And so what happens is people go to the doctor, and I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. I'm saying start to look at the emotional component of what could be going on with you. Because if you look at the emotional component, you can start to address that because that's what you can control. You can control your own thoughts, right?
I'm not so sure about that.
You can control
Before
what you
you
can
tell
control.
me how you control your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to a very lovely, very distinguished woman, Nurse Nikki. And you can find her on Facebook and at nursenikki.com.
Right.
She can be reached at nursenikki.com.
Yes.
So that's a good way, as well as her telephone number is area code 313-695-7879. And now we're getting ready to talk about this mental healing that you're saying that you can do, that
Yes.
can physiologically affect your
You can.
body.
You definitely. It's definitely possible. When you wake up in the morning, you have what you need. But we don't know that, right? And so if you're definitely sick, definitely go to the doctor, get checked out, see what's going on with you. I would never tell anyone not to go to the doctor. But when you know what your physical issues are and you know how it's associated to how you're thinking, you can actually consciously change your mind and think differently.
How do you think differently if you're depressed? Or if you cry a lot? I mean, all
Yeah.
of these things,
Yeah,
How
and
do you-
I don't want to minimize anything about depression because I've definitely had clinical depression for many, many years. I really have. And so I've been that route. I've been suicidal. I've been all of that. So that being said, I educated myself. I asked for help, and so help came. And so I read books, I read different things, and I came to a resolution that I could change. And so I had a choice to be happy or I had a choice to be sad. So when I find myself laying in bed, sad, crying, you can have an argument with your spouse or,
Right,
they're
right.
going about doing what they're doing.
Your
You're
mother,
laying there sad.
she could, your
Whoever.
sister. You could just, your family brings you more stress and trauma
Yeah.
and drama than anybody, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
Forgiveness is a big thing. If you're mad at someone, forgiveness, and we've heard this before, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you. And it made more sense to me because if I'm harboring anger at someone else, then whose liver or whose stomach is going to, maybe possibly hurt? Mine, right?
Right.
If I'm harboring grief and depression, whose heart and lungs? It's my health. And so as I see how these emotions impact me physically, then it's a good idea for me to change my mind about how I'm
But
thinking
how
about
do you
things.
release it? How do you release depression? I mean,
So that's
when you're
that's a good
crying all the
question.
time, for example.
Some people may have to take medication. I would never say not do it if that's what a person needs. But we need to look at mindfulness. We need to look at meditation. We need to look at different non-medical things that allow people to come to a restful state because they've done a lot of research on meditation, right? And it actually, when you go into a meditative state, your brain actually, they've done scans, maybe
Yeah,
CT scans
yeah,
or
the
PET
scans.
scans. They've actually done scans and showed how different areas of the brain have actually shut down, so to speak. So that brings you a calm, right? And so if you're not stressed out about certain things, your body gets a time to relax, work on different things, repair different things, because you've decreased your stress level by simply taking the time to breathe correctly. That's a big thing. Breathe correctly, breath work, and then also not necessarily clear your mind 100%, but I like to tell people, count your breaths, count your heartbeat. If you can't, stop thinking about all the stressors in life, then just count your breath. Just sit quietly with yourself.
If you're supposed to, I just read about this, ladies. I don't know if this is correct. I'll ask you since you're the professional. You're supposed to take a breath, breathe in, count 4 times, breathe out, count 8 times.
You
Is
heard that, see?
I read it, and I've been
So-
trying to do it.
I
I
read-
mean, to see if it's going to work. But
Well, there's a technique I use to go to sleep sometimes, and I read it in a book called Breath. The book is called Breath. Curtis actually referred it to me, and it said to take a deep breath. And when you breathe in deeply with your belly. So let your belly rise first.
wait a minute, hold on.
As you
here.
breathe in.
How do you breathe in with your?
Let your
I
belly.
can I can push my stomach out. How about breathe in through my
When
belly?
you breathe in, just let your belly rise first, and let the air breathe in and go up.
But
through
my
your
chest is rising, not my stomach.
You can focus and have your stomach rise first. Your diaphragm will bring the air into your belly and fill your lungs. Not in your belly, but it's like you're breathing through your belly. So breathe and fill the air and let your belly rise. So as you're breathing, right?
I gotta figure that
You
out.
breathe
Okay, go
in to the
ahead.
count of 4. You breathe into the
That's
count
what they
of four.
said, 4.
Hold your breath for 8 seconds, and then exhale. You squeeze the air out, press your belly in. You do that about 5 or 6 times,
I
and
can't
you
get
will
my belly to
you
breathe in
actually
and out.
relax. Yeah, you'll
You have to
relax,
show me.
and sometimes you just go straight off to sleep. I use that to go to sleep, but there's different breathing techniques that actually breathe in a calm as well. It's behind you.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, well, this has been an amazing, amazing discussion, Nurse Nikki. I'm going to have you back. We're going to talk about all kinds of things when you come back. Not just health, but we can talk about things that so many people are obsessed about these days, about perhaps happiness and or even sex. I mean, that's a big topic for many women and for many men
Yes.
these days. And we haven't touched upon these things that are sort of natural things that people like and enjoy, but for some reason they're having all these difficulties.
Yes.
But I know that you know all about it. Is there any advice that you can give me in 30 seconds or less that everyone should do, either a vitamin they take or something they should do that will increase their health?
Increase their health. Definitely take a few minutes of meditation every day, whether it's 5, 10, or 15 minutes.
Really?
Meditation, yes, because we're living stressful lives, and if you don't give your body an opportunity to relax, then your body doesn't have opportunity to heal. So if you just, like we were just talking about, take some time, and even if you have to put on headphones with some soft meditation music, because a lot of times we're living in environments that are loud, kids, spouses, dog, whatever's going on, and sometimes we're living in a home that we don't have private space. But if you have headphones and soft music, you can take some time in the bathroom or just to yourself on the couch and just take 5 to 10 minutes.
If I
Close
do
your
that, I'll go to
eyes.
sleep on the couch. You can
That's
believe
okay.
that.
That's
I
okay.
would
You
definitely go to sleep.
If you go
I
to
can
sleep-
put on there when I'm out.
If you go to sleep, you need it, because I've done it and I've gone to sleep for like 15 minutes, felt like I was asleep for 6 hours. But your body needs that time. And actually, I did it in a clinic with someone, and the blood pressure went down. We couldn't get a blood pressure reading, but when he did this just for a few minutes, it came down to at least we could get a reading on him. So
Wow.
that was pretty cool. But you need your body time to relax and
Okay.
loosen up. So just relax from your head
Well-
and just release all those muscles down to your toes. 10 to 15 minutes a day.
This lovely lady is Nurse Nikki, and she really knows her stuff. I'm impressed, Nurse Nikki. We've not met before, and I'm not easily impressed.
Thank
I just
you.
want you to know that. And you're watching, ladies and gentlemen, Nurse Nikki on Chop It Up with attorney Linda Bernard. I want to thank our listening audience all around the world on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, watching us right here today on WJZZ, Cool TV, the coolest station in the world.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Linda.
so much, Nurse Nikki. NurseNikki.com.
Thank you.